Welcome to The Trend. I'm Rebecca Granet. Today I am joined by actor, comedian, writer, and producer Simon Pegg, who stars in the new movie out now called Ready Player One. And Simon, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
So let's jump right into it. I want to talk about how you came about this role playing Ogden Morrow. And had you read the book beforehand, or how did you decide to take on the role?
I had read the book. It was given to me when it came out in 2011 because in the book they make mention of the sitcom that I created with Jessica Hines and Edgar Wright in the late 90s in the UK. And there's a moment in the book when Parsifal and H spend the evening watching episodes of Spaced, and it was someone said, "Oh, they mention you in this book," so I read it because I'm a narcissist, obviously. But then I got a call saying, "Oh, Steven Spielberg wants to talk to you," which is always an exciting call to get. And then it was about this, so it felt like, okay, I know this book, and this feels like Manifest Destiny. It's my favorite director. It's a book I know and liked. Why not say yes?
Wow, yeah, it's like Steven Spielberg. I mean, you had worked with Steven Spielberg before, but it's like every time you get that call, you must be like, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I think really whatever he sort of asks you, I would tend to say yes, just because it's him, you know. And so it was a bonus that it was something that I already knew and was aware of and also liked.
Yeah, it's nice that you had read the book previously. But so how much? I know you can't give away too much, but how much of, how similar is it to the book, the movie, or is it? It's a departure?
One thing I thought when I read the adaptation was that it was a brilliant adaptation in the literal sense, the way that it was adapted from being a book, which is a specific thing. You know, a piece of literature is not a film. We consume and perceive literature in a different way. It's very internal, and we imagine everything. Whereas a film is they prescribe all the images for you. So it's not always an easy process from book to film. But I thought that the adaptation was great because it is different. The film is different to the book. But the spirit of the book is entirely intact, and I thought that was a really clever thing to do. Rather than try and adapt some of the less cinematic parts of the book, they changed them to become cinematic things, which worked in the film. So, yeah, I thought it was a really smart. I didn't miss anything from the book, really. Okay. Everything made sense, Yeah,
it's kind of funny when you watch it. You think to yourself, how is this not always a movie? Because it's so visual and it's so engaging. How was it working with Steven Spielberg on set, trying to bring this sort of futuristic world to life? Was there different technology that had to be used? Like, how did you get immersed in that experience?
Oh yeah, I think for Steven it was a continual daily sort of struggle to solve certain technical problems about bringing this world to life. A lot of obviously the virtual world was shot in performance capture mode, which is when you shoot in a big grey studio, everyone's wearing onesies with stripes and dots on, and all the props are sort of wireframe or not there, and you have to act very much like you did when you were a kid. Everything's pretending, you're pretending everything. One thing that was good was that we were able to see where we were by putting on VR helmets, and we could see the sets we were in.
You used virtual reality to talk about virtual reality.
We could walk around the Oasis. Obviously not quite as interactive as it is in the movie because there's no what's called haptic technology where you can actually touch things physically. Nothing virtual can be held yet, you know what I mean? That's still to come, and it will come. But we were able to look around us and say, okay, so we're in the Halliday archives, or we're in the Distracted Globe, and this is what it looks like. So when we took the helmets off, it was easier to imagine where we were.
Fans are so jealous of you right now, right? Fans are like, you can go to the Oasis, this is so cool.
You can. I went to the Distracted Globe and I had a dance and everything. I was in the
it
club.
Fun?
Yeah, it was extraordinary, and I bumped into Freddy Krueger in the club, and it was weird and brilliant.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about, you are such a talented writer from your many of your projects. Was there any ability for you, or maybe there wasn't, but was there an ability for you to sort of get into your character a little bit and maybe put your spin on some of the lines and things like that?
Well, Zach Penn, who did the adaptation, worked with Ernest, the novelist, Ernest Cline, and so when the script was there, it felt very intact. It didn't feel like it needed any kind of adding to really in any way, any sort of improvisation, just because the scenes, obviously particularly in the Oasis, it was very had to be quite rigorous and disciplined. A couple of moments, you can throw lines in. Stephen's very up for that on the day if things come to mind. He doesn't like things to be too set in stone because his mind is always working, so he might suddenly have an idea and go, oh, say this. So occasionally things would come up, and so there was a little flexibility, but it was a really sort of complete script. It didn't really need any work. Anything that we did was a bonus, I think.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about your character, too. So you play Ogden Morrow, the co-creator sort of the Oasis.
Yeah.
What do you love about your character?
I love him because he's a good guy. You know, he's kind of the Steve Jobs, I guess, to James Halliday's was, in that he's the kind of the front man, the kind of benevolent. He's not as sort of ruthless as Jobs was purported to be. You know, he's a bit more. He's very avuncular and nice, and he's a good guy. His desires really are that the Oasis be something that people dip into and they don't live in, because it's dangerous to live in a fake world. You know, I think with James Halliday, Mark Rylance's character, he's quite happy to just live there because it's an easier world for him. Mark plays Halliday beautifully. It's sort of vaguely sort of aspergic, you know, socially awkward and unable to kind of interact with people to make real connections. And at the end of his life, he realizes that that is his biggest regret, is that he didn't make real connections. And for all the fabulous sort of stuff you can do in the Oasis, the film really is about the importance of real people and real things, I think.
That's what I was actually, that was the perfect segue. That's exactly what I was just going to ask you about. Because I found the message so fascinating, especially and so timely for today's society, to talk about, well, we have all these things at our fingertips in social media and virtual reality now, and that looks like that's where things are going, and it sort of tells you to take that moment and realize that real relationships are incredibly important.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of a social media allegory, really, because we already have a world where we can go into and be who we like and tell the stories we want other people to believe about us, and, you know...
Catfish anyone?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or just sort of say, I'm very happy at the moment. You know, look at me having a great time, when really I'm not having a great time.
Yeah.
We project our ideal selves onto social media, and that's kind of what the Oasis is an extension of, you know. And you might feel like you've been in touch with someone of your friends, but you're not. You've just seen pictures of what they want you to see. What's most important is the real connection, the real interaction. That's where genuine friendship is, not this sort of facsimile.
I had seen that once you had said that you stopped really engaging too much with Twitter because you didn't like who you were on Twitter. Was that...
Yeah.
Who were you? What happened?
I don't know. Sometimes I felt like, why am I saying this? Why am I showing someone... why am I showing a lot of people that I went out last night and had dinner with such and so? It's like, what am I trying to prove? What does it matter? The thing that really kind of galvanized my decision to leave social media was people dying, because you always felt kind of obliged to say something. Sometimes you would feel like you couldn't not say something. If someone died that was relevant to you, you'd want to give some kind of eulogy, but then it would often be about the person who was writing the eulogy and not the person that had died. Often the media would pick up on sound bites and reproduce them, and it would be like you'd said it without anyone asking you to say it. I just felt very conflicted about that, you know, particularly in 2016 when everybody died. It was like, you know, I didn't want people to think that I was trying to make other people's sadness about me, and I feel like that's what social media is. It's about making everything about you. And also that kind of that assumption that people care what you say. It's enabled a lot of people's egos in a way that's quite damaging, I think. You know, everyone suddenly thinks that what they say means something and has some relevance or validation, or that it is validated by other people who have similarly backward thoughts about things. Do you know what I mean? People's most inward... People
you'd never connect with before are now validating thoughts that you may have had.
Yeah, or if you have something really bitter inside, which you know is wrong, some prejudice, some kind of opinion, some judgment, and then someone else has that too, suddenly you feel strong, and suddenly you say it out loud, and it normalizes the worst of who we are. Yeah. So, yeah, I just got the heck out of there.
You're just like, I'm over this.
I'm out, I'm gone.
I'm done. Well, you know, we're about to get into the 10 for 10, but I have two more things for you, Simon. I wanted to ask, because you are so involved in films and stories that fans are so passionate about. I mean, it's one thing to make a film that's maybe not an adaptation or something that you're just telling a story, but a lot of your characters are characters that people already love so much.
Yeah.
What is it like having to portray? Is there pressure having to like put that on screen and say, here's this character that you all love, and I hope you like it again?
It's kind of terrifying, particularly with something like Star Trek, which existed and exists and is beloved, irrespective of any reboot or redo of the original series. And so, you know, as a fan of that, it was particularly when myself and Doug Jung wrote that Star Trek movie, it was important that we please ourselves in a way as fans. You know, we were like, well, what would we want from a Star Trek film as fans of it? And and we tried to write a film that was in line with our understanding of what Star Trek was and is. But you can never please everybody, you know, and obviously people are very possessive, I guess, or rather precious about the things that they love, and they don't like people messing with them sometimes, or don't feel that it should be messed with. That's just the way the world is, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. So,
but it's nice that you come to the story as a fan yourself,
absolutely,
so it sort of brings that to it.
And not try and dismantle it, try and remember why it became popular in the first place and build on that, you know.
That's fantastic. Before we get into the 10 for 10, I know you have a couple really cool projects coming up. There's like a Mission Impossible movie. Can you talk a little bit about some of those projects and what you're excited for people to see? Yeah,
well, Mission Impossible Fallout will be out in July, and that was a huge adventure to make. It took us nearly a year because Tom Cruise broke his foot in the, towards what was going to be the end of the shoot. But so we had to shut the film down for a while he recovered at a superhuman rate, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, like annoyingly, he was back on his feet within 3 months, even though he'd like shattered his entire foot.
I love how you say annoyingly. Like, no, Tom Cruise, you need to be in bed a little longer.
I know, right? Just be like a normal human being.
That's too funny.
So yeah, and that was a film which took in Paris and New Zealand and has some extraordinary stunts. We've built on the work we've done before in terms of giving the audience an authentic experience. You know, like Tom does this stuff, and with this one he does stuff which will just make you faint. You know, it was horrific to watch it at the time because we didn't know he was going to survive. Obviously, the film's complete, we can relax. But it's still shocking to see him doing it. So it's a suspense
movie.
Yes, absolutely. So there's that, and then I have a movie coming out sooner than that called Terminal, which I did with Margot Robbie, which will be out in May, which is a sort of noir thriller, really cool, beautifully realized. I mean, we did it for virtually nothing, but it looks splendid. You know, I mean, the DP, we shot it in Budapest, and the director of photography just created this incredible sort of neon world, and that'll be out in May.
How fantastic! Yeah. Well, we can't wait to see them all.
Thank you.
Here we go with the 10 for 10 challenge.
Alrighty.
Okay, you ready, Simon? Yes. Take your time.
Water.
Take your time. You're going to need it. So
all right, I'm ready.
Give you time now so that you don't have it. All right, your first one. If you could have your very own avatar, what would you want it to look like?
That's interesting. I would probably say a slightly musclier, taller version of me.
Just you.
Yeah, but with a special kind of mask, so I could walk around unrecognized.
Okay, I like that. What about your favorite place that you've ever shot, on location?
So many possibilities there. I enjoyed South Africa, actually. I enjoyed shooting in Johannesburg. That was a really interesting place and somewhere I'd like to go back to.
A comedic actor you haven't worked with yet, with whom you'd love to work?
Oh, maybe Steve Carell. I think he's such a great... He's a great comedic actor and is often seen as a comedic actor, but that man is an actor. He's a very good actor.
Yeah,
and he
fabulous.
Can carry serious stuff with aplomb.
Does he know that you'd like to work with him?
I don't know. It'd be nice to.
We'll have to get that out there. Now he's going to know. Steve, there you go. Okay, your most favorite character that you've ever had the opportunity to play?
Gary King in The World's End, just because I love his vulnerability. I love the fact that he's annoying and difficult, but he's, there's a reason for that. And it's good to play characters with depth.
With depth. Something we should all really know, like a fun fact about Steven Spielberg that maybe it's just, it doesn't have to be something cool, just a fun fact.
Sometimes when he's happy with a take, he'll do a little dance.
Really?
Like a little kick of the leg, or and it's the best validation you could ever get. And he'll go, "That's in the movie," and it's like you couldn't be more happy with that. When Steven Spielberg does a little dance and affirms you, I'm blushing thinking about it.
I love it. And I can see it's like coming through. You're like, It's in the movie.
It's like, that's in the movie. He gets excited. And I love that. I love it because he's still energized and passionate about his job all this time later.
Yeah.
And he still cares, you know. It's inspiring.
It's infectious. That's amazing.
Totally, yeah.
What's, okay, the most embarrassing text that you've ever sent that you can remember?
I don't know. I've done that thing sometimes when I've sent the wrong emoji. You know,
yes!
like you send a text and then you send the winky face or the kiss. If you send the eggplant by accident, not only does it suggest that it's in your favorites, it suggests something other than what you really want it to.
Yeah, it's like, why was that readily available
it's
for
like,
you?
Okay, Mum, I'll be there at 3. Penis.
She's like, I gave birth to you.
Yeah, seen it.
Yeah, whatever. No, that's too funny. You're so right. That happens all the time. You're like, well, I didn't mean that.
Or you accidentally send a kiss, the accidental kiss. Like, in the UK, we always put an X at the end of our text. It's quite, even between, it doesn't seem so common here, you know. But sometimes you'll send a text to your, you know, a driver or something who's waiting outside. I'll be out in a sec, kiss. You think, oh, whoops.
Yeah, here we're like, excuse me?
Familiar.
You don't know me like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is so loving.
I love that. No, it's great. I love that. Okay, what's the best vacation you've ever been on?
My family, we like to go to a place in Greece, an island called Kefalonia, which is our kind of, that's our home. We have family there. Well, not family, that we have friends there, Greek friends who've become like family. The Greeks are such a generous, beautiful, welcoming people, and they don't let you pay for anything ever. You know, it's like, I don't think I've ever paid for a drink where we go.
Okay, so they definitely get the X at the end of their text.
Oh, definitely. And if you try and sort of like slip a tip in the jar just to try and recompense them in some way, they get angry. It's like an insult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, and you take the tip and put it back in your pocket.
You don't need to go to Greece.
But yeah, it's a beautiful island, and it's where I feel the most relaxed and happy.
Oh, I like. Okay, your birthday's on Valentine's Day, which is very cool. So what's like the worst or most ridiculous birthday present you've ever received on Valentine's Day?
I think the mailman assumes I'm some sort of Casanova Lothario type, because every Valentine's Day he just piles cards in through my door and then goes, what's your secret? What's going on with you?
So many secret admirers. Like, what's happening here? You're like, it's my birthday.
I don't know, really. I kind of... birthdays change as you get older, obviously. You know, I remember when I was very young, my mum and dad bought me a clock radio. This would have been 1983 or 2. This is full-on Oasis, Ready Player One time.
Oh, I like it.
And they tried to set the alarm so that it woke me up on my birthday morning. So I would wake up to this noise, which in 1983 was like... There was no sort of beep, 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 beep. And... but they couldn't set it. So it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and I kept going, Mum, what's going on? What? And then there was this odd thing on my bedside table and they slightly ruined the surprise.
They ruined your birthday.
Yeah.
You're like,
woke me up 6 times
walking around like a zombie all day.
Exactly, yeah.
That's hilarious. All right, here's your last 2. This one's a thinker for you.
Yeah. We
always ask our guests who come here, or sometimes we'll ask, what question would the fans want to ask you? So we'll like put it out on Twitter, or we'll ask like, what question would you want to be asked? So what I want to ask you is, what question would you like to ask your fans?
Oh, I would ask them, what's wrong with you?
Why are you in my blob?
Yeah. What are you, big blob?
Your last one is a Ready Player One themed question.
Good.
So it's an advice question. Your 3 keys to success. What
My
they
3
would be.
keys. I think find something that you absolutely love. Do that as much as you can, and eventually try and get paid to do it. That's what I would suggest.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's in the movie. I love that. Simon, you're so delightful.
Thank you so
we want to
much.
remind everybody that Ready Player One is out in theaters now. He's in it. Go check it out. Thanks so much, Simon.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you.